In this video, you will learn about HTML form elements. The HTML form element can contain one or more of the following form elements, that is input, text area, label, field set, legend, select, opt group, option, button, data list, and output. So in this HTML file, I have included most of the form elements. So over here, we will learn about the attributes of the form element in the attributes video, but for now we are going to focus on the elements that we can use inside the form element. So the first element that we are going to study is the input element. So over here, as you can see, I have written two elements, input and label elements. So first let's talk about the input element. One of the most used form element is the input element. The input element can be displayed in several ways depending on the type attribute. So again, we will study about the type attribute in the attributes video. And the label element defines a label for several form elements. The label element is useful for screen reader users because the screen reader will read out loud the label when the user focuses on the input element. The label element also helps users who have difficulty clicking on very small regions because when the user clicks the text within the label element, it toggles the radio button or the checkbox. Now the for attribute for the label tag should be equal to the ID attribute of the input element to bind them together. So over here, as you can see, the for attribute, the value of the for attribute should be equal to the value of the ID attribute of the input element. And on the browser, it looks like this. As you can see, the first division displays input and label element. So inside label opening and closing tag, we have written first name. So that will appear on the browser over here. And because of the input element, you can take the input from the browser over here, from the user over here. The next element is the select element. So I have written select element in this division. The select element defines a drop-down list. So on the browser, as you can see, there's a drop-down list over here. And the values of the list are provided in the option element. The option elements defines an option that can be selected. By default, the first item in the drop-down list is selected. But over here, we have also used the attribute size. So as you can see over here, we have written the attribute size, and that is why you can see 3 options will appear on the browser instead of 1. If we make the size to 1, so now you can see only one option. So that is the use of size attribute. Again, we will make it 3 in order to understand the multiple attribute. So because of the multiple attribute, you can select multiple options with the help of the control button. So you have to press down control button and select multiple options. If you don't include multiple attribute in your HTML file, you won't be able to select multiple options on the browser. So as you can see, I can select only one option at a time. So that is why so because of the multiple attribute, you can select multiple options. The next element is the text area element in this section, in this division. The text area element defines a multi-line input field. So as you can see on the browser, so over here you can see there is only single line input field over here, but in this division, because of the text area element, there is multi-line input field. So that is how you can include a multi-line input field in your in your web page using the text area element. So over here, after the text area element, we are going to talk about the button element over here in this division. So as you can see on the browser, in this division there is a button which says click me. So in order to include this button in your web page, you can follow this syntax. So you need to remember that you have to always specify the type attribute for the button element. Different browsers may use different default types for the button element. The next elements are field set and legend element. So over here, this division displays field set and legend elements. The field set element is used to group related data in a form, and the legend element defines a caption for the field set element. So over here, the legend element is going to define the caption for field set element. So Personalia is the caption. So as you can see on the browser, it shows Personalia. Which you have to include inside the field set element. So this entire thing will appear as a separate division or a separate section on the browser. And lastly, we have the data list element. The data list element specifies a list of predefined options for an input element. Users will see a drop-down list of the predefined options as they input data. The list attribute of the input element must refer to the ID attribute of the data list element. So as you can see, there is a drop-down list of predefined options for this input field. That is because of the data list element. And the syntax is this.